Welcome, everyone, to another Industry and Transition Zoom call. I am thrilled to have Aditi Javeri Gokhale with us. And is that the
you
right
got
way?
it right, Tony.
I'm fantastic. Okay, but she does have a long title. She's an EVP. She's Chief Strategy Officer, President of Retail Investments, and Head of Institutional Investments for Northwestern, which is a great firm. And we're really happy to have you here.
Thank you, Tony. I'm excited to be here today.
So this is sort of a pivotal time and an interesting time. So we've all just been through something, unprecedented. We've had this pandemic, which has, for our business, it accelerated a lot of things that were already starting with technology and things like that, and it decelerated other things. When you look back on it, I mean, what do you feel like you want to take with you from the pandemic as a positive? What would you leave behind, that kind of thing, when you look at what's going on at Northwestern from your position?
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, Northwestern Mutual has had the best year in 2021. Historically, it's been the best year. And we are a company which, we pride ourselves, we've been around for 165 years. So when it came to our results, they've been historic in terms of our revenues are at 31 billion.
Wow.
We from a retail investments perspective, we are one of the fastest growing independent broker dealers. We're top 10 in the country. We're the number one life insurance company. And last year we were at 1.6 billion in premium. So we've topped the industry records at an all-time high. Having said that, the pandemic has taught us as a company many things. Technology adoption, digital adoption in terms of working with our clients, making it easier for our clients, making it easier for our advisors is something that we feel we had already started to do pre-pandemic, but we, in fact, invested more during the pandemic when it came to technology.
Yeah. And
most companies were hunkering down in terms of, and I don't know if you remember this, Tony, back in March 2020, S&P down 23%, right? Most companies were hunkering down and trying to just make sure they were looking at their business results. We doubled down on our investments when it came to our technology, specifically from an advisor perspective. We'd already started a journey of building out tools, capabilities, a new trading platform, advisor capabilities around desktop, mobile, planning, but we decided as an executive team that we're not going to shy away from the commitments we've made to our advisors and to our clients. And so we continue to make those investments. So I think what we will take with us is a continued commitment around making sure that our advisor experience and our client experience is top notch.
I think, our industry was uniquely suited to benefit from, if you could benefit from a tragic situation, but we were kind of set up, and that acceleration, I think, has helped us and will help us going forward, will help advisors going forward. Mm-hmm. So part of that, which is interesting, because you and I were talking just before about, planning and planning aspects. So I was waiting to get on my high horse, but I'm going to get on it now, because I don't think, financial advisors as a rule, mm-hmm. They do financial planning. I think that people have agreed that we need to do this. But if you don't do the insurance part of it, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. you can't plan without insurance. And there are a lot of reasons, Aditi. There's a limited access. There's, if you're an RIA, sort of out independent, maybe your firm or platform just doesn't do it at all, doesn't want to touch it. But on the end, away from Northwestern, if you're a standard financial advisor, you're letting other people do that business, and other people are talking to your clients about it.
Yep. So I think the way we think about planning or insurance or investments is it all starts with financial security for our clients. So what we mean by financial security and what we have in our value proposition are two aspects, which is protect and prosper. So protect is the insurance side of financial security, and prosper is really the wealth side of financial security. We don't think it's one or the other, it's an and. And so our go-to-market strategy, which is through our advisors, is planning first. So our planning philosophy, we built out a proprietary planning software, which is very unique in the industry. All our advisors have adopted that. We start with planning. Within planning, then there are recommendations around protect and prosper. We are a company that believe in permanent life insurance being extremely critical to the both short-term and long-term financial security of our clients. And then, of course, there's the prosper side of the equation. That, Tony, that value proposition truly resonates with clients who want to think about financial security both in the short and the long term. And I don't see many companies doing that.
Well, I don't see it either. I think, companies started to do it. So just to age myself here, right? So when I started in the business at a big wirehouse firm, they had an insurance guy walking around the office, and he worked, whether we were for Pru or Northwestern, I forget, but another company, and they brought in and we split business with them, right? And then, firms got taken over by banks, and it was more, my opinion is, it was more beneficial to the firm to do mortgages than insurance. So all of a sudden, bankers, right? We're selling, bank products, and we kind of lost the ability to do it. They couldn't work the math out between a middleman and the advisor getting paid and the firm getting paid. And it was a mess. And consequently, advisors don't do it. A lot of them have stopped getting their licenses.
Yeah. I think the way we think about our go-to-market strategy, which is planning first and then protect and prosper, is because I think our mindset as a company, we are truly unique in its core. We are a mutual, right? Yeah. So we are owned by our policyholders.
Explain that. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes, we are owned, and that's what I wanted to say. We're a mutual company, so we are owned by our policyholders. Every single dollar of profit that we make goes back to our policyholders, which is very different from being a public company, which is owned by shareholders. So in its core, the essence is a customer promise, which is we want to do what's best for our policyholders, who, by the way, own the company.
Right.
That's a very different mindset and a very different
mindset,
right? Yeah. So when you think about that, and then when you tie that kind of a philosophy of mutuality to financial security, it is not about being rich. It's about being financially secure and being independently financially secure. That's where the protect and prosper value proposition comes to play. And our advisors have completely engaged with us. In fact, co-created this value proposition with us. That's another thing that's truly unique in our company. And I've spoken to many advisors outside of Northwestern Mutual, executives outside, but much of the work that we do is co-created with our advisors. And what I mean by co-created, we have joint teams of field leaders and advisors working on products, services, value proposition, branding. All of that is co-created.
So obviously, the wealth management piece is a big part of your business, yes, as well. Do advisors come from other firms to Northwestern, or is everybody recruited young? Or
we have a value proposition for advisors at all stages and all ages of their career. We start with, historically our recruiting has been out of college. We've got a very strong college intern program, but we've had career changers, advisors that have switched careers. We have recruiting from outside of Northwestern Mutual, from other companies too. So it's a mix of, but largely I would say historically it's been advisors that we have recruited fresh out of college, and we've developed them, trained them, mentored them, and that's how they go into the system.
And that's also a big investment.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an expensive proposition. I would say one of the challenges that business outside of Northwestern has in the wealth management business is we're aging. We have an aging, not necessarily diverse population that is having trouble replicating itself. We need to get younger people in the business. Well, part of it is, our business is dispersing, Aditi. I mean, you see, there were, certain large, firms that did a lot of training, and now they're sort of not anymore.
Right.
So, it's really hard to find a place if you're a young person to come in and be trained if you're interested in wealth management. What
is it that would intrigue or interest a young advisor to join a company? Right. Yeah. And it all starts with what is the value proposition? What is the support? What is the training, the tools, the capabilities? We pride ourselves. We have the largest, most productive, the youngest, and the most diverse field force in the industry. And so we are the envy of the industry. But the reason why we spend a lot of time, investments in what you just talked about, which is how do we create a value proposition? How do we create a compensation system? How do we create training and development? So we've launched a national training program Sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, so, I was going to interrupt you and say, it's also harder today. I mean, when I started, you could cold call, you know what I mean? Can't do that anymore. And one of the things, I don't know if you want to, get down this road too deep, but if I'm a first generation, let's just talk about diversity for a second. If I'm a first generation out of college, when I started in the business, my father was a dentist. So all of my clients were dentists, right? So that was kind of easy. And there was one of the, one of the easy ways to go, right? But if I don't have a network, how do I develop it? And it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. We
got to level that playing field a little bit,
That's right. So it is a challenge. I mean, the referral model is still extremely strong within our company. It is something that we have trained. Again, we take a lot of time. Our managing partners, we have a MP-led system within our company. Our managing partners spend a lot of time with the home office, training and developing our new recruits. That's number one. But number two, beyond the training and recruiting that we do, and by the way, I just wanted to get back to one of the things we have started to do, and this has been, again, back to the investments we're making in our advisors. We've launched a national training program. So that is basically creating a consistent experience, knowledge across our value proposition, products and services, across all our 76 offices that we have. So that's pretty big. We have a very strong mentoring program where we connect our early recruits with career advisors. We have something called joint work, which is you may be new and you may really want to get into the wealth space, but you really don't know how to do it. And we have joint work sort of opportunities. We also have study groups. These are the ways that we create a community within our advisor, field force to make sure that our advisors have the support to thrive within Northwestern Mutual.
So you're hitting on something that I also find interesting, which is, and look, I love the study group. It's the simple things that work, right?
It is.
But we went back to the pandemic. Young people. Yeah. My daughters, I have 2 daughters that are 4 daughters, 2 are in the workforce, 24, 26. And, it's been hard not being in an office. We're an apprenticeship business, right? You said mentor, you got to learn from being there. So how's that working?
So we recognized that very early on when everyone went virtual, right? We were one of the early companies back in March where we said everybody starts to work remotely. By the way, back to the technology investments we made, the whole virtual, our advisors going virtual, our employees going virtual was completely flawless. Yeah. So because we were making these investments over many years, it wasn't just during the pandemic. We recognize that the culture, and our culture is around meeting in person. We have study groups. We have, our annual meeting. We've got regional meetings. We connect with our advisors. I travel all over the country. We recognize that was something that was going to take a major hit. And we didn't, initially, we all went virtually. But what we did during the pandemic was made sure that our advisors had the right support to really service their clients. That was step number one. So step number one was we created rent subsidies for our advisors. We were literally reaching out to them saying, do they need anything? Because what we wanted to make sure was they took care of their clients. That was step number one. Step number two was we wanted to make sure, and we, as I say, it's not the home office, is it our field leaders and our advisors, they started creating virtual communities, virtual study groups, virtual happy hours. And I would attend many of them. And this started very spontaneously and then became much more of a regular sort of way of connecting. Then in the middle, once most people, started to get vaccinated and things started to open up, we did meet a bit, at different events. So it was the first year was tough. We replicated it virtually, but I think, 2020 was also a real banner year for us. I think the culture we had created pre-pandemic is truly what took us through the pandemic. We had a very strong culture in between the home office and our advisors and our field leader. And that, Tony, is truly unique within NM. And that really took us through this.
Yeah, and in my mind, it's an ongoing challenge to introduce young people to our business, right? And then how it works. And for so many of those conversations, you need to be in an office where you can just walk down or even hear a conversation. They're investing in this. How does that work?
Yep.
What do you typically do? Or even get help with an advisor. Hey, can you go with me on a call?
That's right. So much of that started to happen virtually. There was a recognition within NM that the new recruits, in fact, there was some that hadn't even seen their, colleagues for like over a year, right, in person. So we started creating these virtual communities. On the home office side, as an executive, I figured that this was the exact same thing that is happening with our employee base, because our employees, we were, on campus, meeting in person kind of a company. And so one of the things I started was an Ask Aditi session, where on a Friday morning at 8 o'clock, anyone from the company or my function can get on a Zoom call and ask me any question, right? So it started to build that virtual community and conversations that were needed. And we tried to do the same within our advisor network too.
Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways too, we do a fair amount of research, and I have access to obviously a lot of research that advisors and clients are starting to. I think that one of the impacts of the pandemic and working virtually and doing all stuff, people are feeling a little bit differently about their money and their relationships with their clients, or relationships with their firms. Being at home has made a whole. I mean, you can hear dogs in the background or kids, or it's just a different feeling. And clients are even more asking, not what am I invested in, but what am I going to do with this money? Is this money for me to have a house on the beach? Is it for me to write a novel? Or just travel, see my grandkids? What am I going to do with it?
Right. So this comes back to financial security. And this is so, what's interesting about our value proposition and where we have been and where we are through the pandemic, our value proposition truly resonated with our clients and with prospects. Why is that? Because consumers started to think about their short-term and long-term goals, right? And our planning philosophy is all about making sure. So when you meet a prospect, when you're planning, you're talking about all your goals: sending your kid to college, taking that vacation, buying a second home, or it is about retirement. It's all of these goals are part of the planning conversation. And then how do you sort of develop a protect and prosper philosophy to meet those goals is exactly what we do. We've been doing it pre-pandemic. It just has become more relevant and a heightened demand post-pandemic.
Well, I also think people are taking a look at their mortality too. I mean, this was a
They
scary
are.
time,
And
I'm sure, and look, you guys do, I think, more. That's another thing about life insurance. You're a little more used to having these conversations than your typical, wealth advisor who's really just talking about investments most of the time.
Right.
But this is a real opportunity to talk about some pretty serious issues.
Yeah, we call them the what if conversations. That's the protect side of it, right? The what if you get disabled? What if you die early? What if you live more than 85, right? Those are the what if conversations, but those are the conversations our advisors have during the early sort of planning meetings that they have. And our advisors are very used to that. So it's part of our planning philosophy. It's part of our financial security sort of value proposition. So it's the what if around protect, and the prosper is, okay, so how do we meet your hopes, goals, and dreams?
Great. Well, we like I said, we'll do it again.
We'll do it again. Well, thank you, Tony.